Are you deep in a South American jungle, hundreds of miles from civilization? And you're with your only friend, an old man way past his prime with a gambling debt, being chased by both a young woman and another old British guy who wants to find the city of gold? If you find yourself in this very specific situation, you may just qualify to be Nathan Drake. Congratulations! Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new and improved version of this show. I had many reasons for all the changes and redesigns that I've done, most specifically being the actual way I was presenting it being kind of mediocre in my eyes. So I've changed it. There's gonna be more humor, more me, especially with my face now that I'm legally allowed to be on YouTube, huh? There's gonna be props, there's a green screen behind me that's obviously filled with a picture right now, and yeah, so it's gonna be great. Yeah, let's get into it. Today we're gonna be reviewing Uncharted Drake's Fortune for the PS3, but the version I played was on the PS4, so it's in the Nathan Drake collection. I think it's the better version, maybe. I don't know, I've never played the PS3 version, but it's the one that has more access, so if you want to play the game still, you probably want to play that version. Well, without further ado, let's get into the review. Naughty Dog is now a legendary developer for Sony, but before that they were just a mildly successful studio. They made Crash Bandicoot, the unofficial mascot for the PS1, and Jak and Daxter, one of the contenders for the PS2's mascot. But after the founders left the company, where could they go from there? The first thought they had was to continue past Jak X Combat Racing with a Jak 4, but problems came up. They were waiting patiently for PS3 dev kits, but when they got them, the kits were harder to work with. If they were gonna make a Jak 4, it couldn't be in the same style as Jak 2 and 3. So instead, they set to work making a much more linear, completely new series. They came up with the idea of an Indiana Jones-style game, and that's what they ended up doing. Uncharted Drake's Fortune came out in 2007, but was it any good? The simple answer is obviously yes, but we need to go more in depth to understand why it's such a great game, and more specifically, why it shot Naughty Dog to the top of Sony's first-party studio lineup for years to come. Our story begins in the ocean off the Panamanian coast, where Nathan is uncovering the coffin of his ancestor, Sir Francis Drake, when pirates attack. Some chaos ensues and him and Elena Fisher make their escape with the help of Victor Sullivan, one of Nate's friends. Since we have our main cast pretty much established already, let's talk about them. And Nate is a little selfish, but he has a good heart. In fact, the entire reason he's out risking his life in the jungle is for Sully, who has a gambling debt. The whole idea behind Nate's design was to create a character who wasn't super muscly or the ideal physical condition, more so an everyman who can do some crazy stuff but also has pretty reasonable limits, for the series. That doesn't stop him from performing incredible feats of athleticism and taking insane amounts of gunshots to the chest and head without dying. I think it's a little exaggerated in this regard, but since the first installment is fairly grounded, I think it's okay here. Speaking of things that make little to no sense, let's talk about Sully next. Sully's pretty old, and we get a better idea of his age in Uncharted 3 when he's seen as a man in his late 20s when Nate was around 15, probably setting their age around 10 to 15 years apart. A lot of the time, Sully's doing the same incredible feats that Nate's doing, at least at the beginning. Sully is more often than not written out of the story for some reason, and it's not just in the first game either. This happens quite a lot, like in Uncharted 2 more predominantly, but we'll get to that some other time. And our last main character, Elena Fisher. She's a reporter slash TV host slash online article writer, depending on what game you're looking at. Here, she's the second one, running her own TV show and racking up a lot of debt for her TV channel. Like, a lot of debt. I'm talking thousands or tens of thousands in expenses, besides being captured by pirates nearly, and also nearly being killed as much as Nate himself. Now that we have the characters established, let's get back to the story. So, Sully saves Nate and Elena, and they ditch her at shore, heading for...
Huh? El Goddamn Dorado.
a long ways away. We cut to when they get there, and they make their way inside a temple. This is where the light puzzle solving of this game comes into play. They're shooting objects in the vicinity, throwing some grenades, some button mashing, and spinning this left stick around. There's not much variety, but I appreciate the little things to make it seem like you're actually helping Nate and Sully progress. I'm helping! Chapter 3 is about this strange German U-boat up in the jungle, and Nate finds a map to El Dorado inside. All the Germans were killed for some reason. That's pretty cool, right? Well, some guy named Roman is here to steal the map and shoot Sully in the chest. Yeah, downer, right? Nate escapes, but it turns out Elena was following them. Now it's a mad dash to find El Dorado and get revenge for Sully's death. Yeah, that whole part is the whole middle of the game. The next segment of chapters surrounds this fort after Sully's plane gets shot down before they can find El Dorado. These chapters were the least linear, especially the ones surrounding the fort itself, as the amount of windy staircases and open shootout areas have me dazed for a while. Now, here's about as good a time as any to talk about the gameplay. It's a cover-based third-person shooter type gameplay style for the combat, with some melee thrown in there too. It almost feels like they did a similar idea mixing melee with guns as they did in Jak 2 and 3, and what they would do with The Last of Us as well. There's a large selection of guns to choose from, like AK-47s and M4s to World War II guns like the MP40. Shotguns, pistols, and even some special mounted weapons like the turret are available with unlimited ammo from time to time, which is pretty cool. The action of snapping to cover is really good and feels great, though it would be outdone by many later games that came after it. Back to the story. I find the design of the areas to be pretty realistic to at least what I think an old fort would probably look like. I haven't seen many since I don't live in South America or anything. And the amount of enemies you have to clear out before you can move around freely is pretty interesting. There's actually quite a few things you have to do to progress forward with the story. Eventually, you do find Elena and escape the fort. And the chapter Escaping the Fort is a different style of gameplay, having you shoot from the back of a moving jeep. It's a pretty exhilarating section and the highlight of the game for me personally. Once that's over, we come to the cursed city, not El Dorado, just some cursed city that's flooded. And here's the style of gameplay I hate the most. This little stupid boat you take up the river, upstream and around the sunken city is very hard to control, and it's not fun to shoot off of at all. I really think this is probably the down part of the game, like the worst part of the game, specifically the upstream chapter where it gets significantly harder to control and even more just problematic overall. But it didn't totally ruin the experience, so let's continue. The last third of the game focuses around an old crumbling monastery where Roman and his men are holding Sully and also trying to find El Dorado. Of course, with their superior intellect and inferior guns, Nate and Elena rescue Sully and manage to find El Dorado, or at least the way to it. But surprise, Roman's already there. The last part of the game is this tight hallway corridor maze of a German bunker with Spanish creepy crawly zombie dust powder gold curse monsters chasing Nate at every step of the way. It's actually kinda scary, but it turns out that El Dorado was actually a statue the whole time, and it creates the creepy crawly zombie dust gold powder monsters by way of its insides, which house the dust. It makes absolutely no sense. Like, did the people who built the statue put the dust there? Why did they do that? Well, Roman takes some zombie crack cocaine and turns into a creepy crawly zombie dust powder gold curse monster, but this guy Eddie Raja kills him. Eddie was working for Roman but secretly hated him, and now has taken over his whole organization in about half a minute. Nate follows Eddie back to his ship and they have a climactic fight. You punch him a bunch and then he's completely dead, and El Dorado sinks to the bottom of the ocean along with Eddie's body. The game is over and nobody died who was on the morally right side, definitely. And that's Uncharted Drake's Fortune. It took me a while to figure out what to say, but once I did, I can confirm that this is a fantastic game you should check out on both PS3 or PS4, depending on which is easier for you. But I think I'm forgetting something. Yeah, No, I'm not forgetting anything. No, we're completely fine.